And here we are.
We're live.
Hello, and welcome to the Isobuddies podcast.
She nailed it in one shot. I can't. How come I can't do that? Well, this is Claire down here, down there.
Josh up there somewhere.
Those are walking sticks over there. But
There's Josh.
if you see a rubber ducky, you'll win a prize. If you can find a rubber ducky and I can verify the sighting, you win a prize. I don't know what it is yet, but it'll be good because I've only seen them once in a month. We thought we'd get some livestock on screen. That's not all we have planned today, though. So today we have a great guest. She is easily, on every level you can imagine, the sexiest woman person in Isopods, for sure. So most people know her as Nat or Dionysus Tegu. She has some alter egos, same as me. She's smart, she's funny, she's energetic. She's got just the whole package. We've got a really great show for you tonight. And of course, we have Claire to keep us on track. So, which is good because I need that more than most.
Yes. So without further ado,
let's bring that on. Here she is to talk about setups and research. Welcome, Nat.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on, you guys. I'm super excited.
Thank you so much for being here. We love that you wanted to be on our show.
Definitely super excited to have you here. So I'm going to kick it off real quick. So who or what got you started in this hobby that you've seriously taken seriously?
So I'll try to get bullet points so I don't take too much time. I have actually this crested gecko that we were just talking about, and I wanted to make sure I had the best environment. So I learned that bioactives were the way to go. So I obviously needed isopods for that, for them to do exactly what they're amazing at and is being awesome biodegraders. And so I got my next reptile. I ended up getting a storage monitor, got that. And then I got a tegu, which now that tegu is an 8x4 foot enclosure. And I needed about 2,000 powders to fill it.
Wow.
And no reptile shop had that.
You dozen and you bred them for a week. All right, cool.
If I would have known better, I would have done that. But no, I'm just kidding. If only there was that easy, right? So I needed a large number, and I ended up meeting Tanya. She is actually on a lot of the Facebook groups. Tanya, Laura, they do a lot of different invertebrates and stuff. And so
of Maite,
yes, Maite Exotics. Yep, Maite Exotics.
They're not a sponsor yet, but
and not a sponsor yet, but they will be on the show later this summer. So keep watching.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh, tonight's sponsor is Guinness milkshakes. I highly recommend you make one. So you make a milkshake, but instead of milk, you just use a bottle of Guinness. Enjoy.
I love it. And so, so I needed a large number of isopods, and so I ended up finding her and went over to her place in order to look at all the different species just in case if I needed something else. And she showed me a Hoffmannsegge. And I'm sorry, I have to actually correct myself. She didn't show me, her niece did actually, who was helping her out for a little while at the time, showed me a Hoffmannsegge. And I saw him and my heart just, I was like, how have I not known about these amazing things? Like, I need this in my life right now. And I think the next day, I went back and spent about $500 and then picked up multiple species.
Wow.
And, but what was great about it actually is she got me so into it. We had an amazing conversation. Actually, I actually ended up meeting Tanya, and we had a great conversation. And we actually ended up throughout this time that was almost, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now. And we've done so many trades that she's more than given me back that amount of money. Like, it's insane. So multiple species she's just given me, which has been awesome, just because our relationship has grown so much. And I then just got on Facebook groups. And of course, as you know, the addiction grew, and I started doing trades, and then people were being super nice and just started pods. And I was like, okay, cool. I have more things to take care of, And just from there, just like like I said, that itch grows and that addiction grows, and you just start trading more and more and more. Next thing you know, you have 65 species, and or different varieties. I'm sorry, not species, but different varieties and species.
I'm like halfway there, so I'm almost there. If I can stop taking pit stops for like walking sticks and lizards and whatever else, micro roaches, whatever else, ants.
But the journey is the best part, isn't it? Like
it is. My journey is like, it's like a spastic with no compass is my journey. So awesome. That's awesome. So it was the Maite exotics that kind of got you into it for your lizard. That's good.
Oh yeah. And like I said, and then the research bug grew in me, because I'm like, how do I best take care of these? I want like the best environment, just like I did for my crested gecko and my stores and my tegu and, my cats and everything that I have. I try to put as much effort into it, to show that I care. And so doing all the research has just led me down this amazing path. And it's been an incredible journey thus far. So
hold that thought. Yeah. We're going to get to that in a bit. That research is something we're really going to talk about. You're good. Yeah. You're good. Spoilers.
We'll get there. Before we get to the research, you've told us a little bit about your journey. Like, is there a point in time where you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be really serious about this? Or have you always kind of been serious since you saw that first half?
So it's kind of been a little bit of a couple different things. So I can openly say I have a very addictive personality. And so whenever I fall in love with something, damned if I do, damned if I don't, I go hard into it. I went snowboarding for the first time on a whim. I was supposed to take pictures of flowers in the snow, and I ended up snowboarding, falling in love so much. I went on OfferUp and I got all the gear, bought a season pass, and I've been going every season except for when I got my car accident. So it was no different with the Isopods. So it was, I will say though, there was slightly a difference in the sense that this really sparked something in me when I started looking at Cubaris species and seeing all the funny names for them. And that's when I really wanted to dig in. I'm like, there's no way this thing is called a rubber ducky.
Yeah. Aren't they saying rubber duckies aren't even Cubaris anymore? Like they're suspecting that they're more the I can't think of the
Marinella, maybe?
There's a debate.
Yeah, Marinella.
There's a debate right now. Marinella, yeah, the same as those adorable bumblebee or the tricolor.
Yeah.
With the tricolor, they're stating that they're actually finding a lot more similarities with them than other Cubaris, like the Murena. The Murena, there's a lot of science research on them, so they have a lot to be able to compare with those.
Okay. Cool. I think I'm next, and I'm watching you guys and not watching the show. Okay. Do you have any special background related to the hobby, or particular background in research itself? Because I know that's one of your passions as well.
So it is just a passion of mine. I've always been a little bookworm. I've always been that straight A student. I love reading. And so learning new things, knowledge is power is something that I was always told. So I've always wanted to learn. And whenever I find out about a new topic, I want to know as much as I possibly can about it.
Okay. Fantastic.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about the research. So specifically with scientific research, where do you do that?
So thankfully I'm afforded now. I will get into what's more accessible, but thankfully me being a college student, I'm able to access the library. Now, what's amazing also is everyone can access a public library, which all these articles I found out, and I've actually cross-referenced across different libraries and stuff like that, and different sites and stuff like that within it and what their hubs are. They're all accessible to everyone, which is great. So I can't publicly share it because of copyright information. I can't copy and paste the article on Facebook or on a Google Drive or anything like that. Right. But I can give you the link of the library and be all you gotta do is just get a free library card and you have access to this article.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, so that's what I've been doing. A lot of my research has just been logging in through my school library, and there is a plethora of different articles. And I mean, I'm talking just, it's ridiculous how many different topics you can find on just isopods.
That's amazing. Like, I want to know more. But I'm not
And to
sure
your
where to go.
public
So, like,
library.
what kind of things are there out there on isopods, really?
Oh my gosh, they've tested production rates. They've tested what the brood sizes are for different species. Did you know that most species, they have, actually all species from what they've tested thus far, they can only have a certain amount of broods. So they can only get pregnant a certain amount of times before they pass. Certain species, there's one that is a very difficult name to pronounce, but I will get it for you guys shortly as soon as I try to find my notes that I have hiding over here, that only can produce one time.
Mm-hmm.
They mate once, they give birth once, and that's it. Like, that is the end of their life cycle. So it was pretty interesting that there's been studies and people have done controlled studies on isopods, knowing like, oh, like this one got pregnant this many times because we've had it for this long and we know it's mated this long. To have that type of control over an experiment is I thought was fascinating.
It's amazing. Like, I wouldn't have guessed peer-reviewed isopod studies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's crazy is they're so easy to keep. We could do that kind of study in our own rooms.
We
like
totally do peer-reviewed citizen science and figure out who would publish us.
I bought like takeout containers tonight they're just black, so I could have isopods on display while we do the show. And I was looking at them today, and I was like, if I put 5 pods in here or 6 pods, like they could live in here, and I could figure out like, oh, I have 5 pods. They had 2 batches of babies. I have 40 now. Okay, let's do the math. Like it would be that easy. So sorry.
Somebody's already done it and published it, so we don't have to. We just need a library card.
At your library. That's one to grow on. I don't have the star. So, next question.
Speaking of like libraries and public accessibility, I know in some fields, if you can't get behind the paywall to actually read the article, you can email or message the named authors and often get a copy for free. Have you ever done something like that?
So here's the thing about that. So I kind of made a small little comment that I'll bring back into the light. So yes, you can absolutely message. And actually, not really talked to, but I've sent messages out to a few individuals. A couple things they have gotten back to me, and one of them was actually kind enough to explain to me what the open source data sharing within libraries are. Technically, any library anywhere can access just about any book around the world and get it to you, which is incredible. With enough patience, if you're willing to wait, they can get just about any book in any library. So when I asked him if I could share his information, he's like, look, you have to have access to a library in order to get it, but the information is free and out there. There is, though, copyright. They do have to sign copyright like when they publish an article and things like that in different journals. And so that's what I'm saying. I can't just copy and paste a journal article and put it on any open source area, because then I could get in trouble for copyright. That's not my information to give out. But I can give you access to a source that already has that availability. So
Heads,
super cool.
if you can't, if you found an article, you want to read it, it's in the journal, but you can't afford to pay, whatever ridiculous price the scientific journal wants for one article. You message the person who wrote the article who holds the copyright, and they can send you the copy. For us as civilians, we've got some limit of fair use as far as short quotes. Like, I'm an English teacher in my day job. I've taught some of this.
Yes, exactly. So you absolutely understand, like when people ask for certain information, even on Facebook and different things like that in different groups, I ensure that if I do put a piece of a table, I only put a small amount, and that it has the information of like that article and the author at least and things like that. Because I'm like, obviously, I didn't do this. I can't take credit for this amazing study that somebody did over years. So Absolutely. But yeah, most of them are great. And that's the thing that people don't know. And I'm glad that you brought that up. If there is a paywall, it takes a few minutes to draft up a quick email and notify the author, say you can even express your passion in it. And I'm sure they'll see and understand. It's going to be very rare that you're going to have an author say no. More than likely, you're just going to have to wait a while. Like I'm still waiting on a couple, to be honest. But
and honestly, if it's somebody who's publishing peer-reviewed stuff where it's $100 for an article, it's Google them, and it's probably at university.edu. It's probably their work email. It should come right up if you have trouble finding them.
Exactly.
Speaking of specific articles, do you have any specific articles or authors that you recommend or that we should check out? As far as like beginner stuff, kind of?
So I don't have specific authors because a lot of these are done in laboratory settings where there's multiple scientists looking at this. There's somebody who specializes in heavy metals, somebody who specializes in like reproduction, somebody who may specialize in just like the soil and the plants that these animals degrade. Like most times they're collaborations. And so I'm not going to lie, I don't remember all of the individuals because most cases it's usually a minimum of 3 to 7 people that are going to be associated with this article, more likely than not, if they are looking at more of like the peer reviewed ones. And so that I do not have. However, I do recommend when it comes to looking up information, you want to set your parameters to things that are within the last 3 to 5 years. There have been multiple studies that are done. And just like we know things change, science evolves in the sense that maybe we have different tools to find out more. I mean, we just recently found out that Komodo dragons, it's not just the bacteria. They actually have venom glands. So, you know.
I didn't know that. I thought it was just their funky, that gross snot that they drip all the time. I thought that's all
they actually have venom glands, but they found out. So they actually do and essentially inject venom into there, and it's causes necrosis and things like that. But but I mean, there was exactly. But there was just a documentary, 10 years ago stating it was a bacteria that slowly, affected you. Yes, exactly. Yes, in their saliva. Yeah. And so that's why I highly recommend people that when they are looking for these articles, go ahead and set those parameters. Like if you're looking for something specific, for example, like I said, like how many babies can I expect? How many mankind can I expect from this particular breed? Look at something that's a little more recent, from, the last, I said, like 5 years or so. Now, there are going to be certain things, granted, that will be, I'm not going to say set in stone, but things that have continually been studied. And you'll see articles from, 1950s and actually as early as 1870s, as crazy as it is. People have been studying isopods like for a really long time.
That's crazy.
And a lot of things are very consistent. So don't be scared if you do find an article like, they said that I should look up things that are recent. It's okay if you find an older article. Like sometimes there are consistencies that you'll see in titles and you're like, oh, okay, it's older, but there's a few of them that are older. So it's something that may have been just consistent enough that they didn't want to reevaluate or go back into.
And one of the other things you can double check is if you are looking at newer things, are they citing the 1950s paper? Because if the modern scientists are referencing back to that paper from the 50s, then you know that whatever that paper found is generally accepted at this point.
Yes, absolutely. And you'll see that a lot in these newer ones. They always reference these older ones. That's why you'll see, even when they mention Cuberis murina, you'll see it says that they were discovered in 1887. I think it was I know it was in the 1800s. As crazy as it is.
Something like that, yeah.
And so, yeah, they definitely do reference back to them. Absolutely.
That's one of those things is, I guess, crazy, but it's not crazy. It's like in the 1880s, someone flipped a rock and went, oh, this thing rolls into a ball. This is totally dope. Let's take some home and keep them in an old hat. Whatever. That's all they need.
In the 1880s, they were like, we need to document everything on the planet. Let's flip this rock and see what's underneath it.
Let's make an aquarium out of
clay. For science and name it in Latin, possibly Greek, but mostly Latin.
Mostly Latin. Exactly.
Where do we find these? Borneo. Let's name them Borneo. Sweet.
Who
That's
found
what
them?
they shall be
Hoffman,
called.
let's call them.
Yeah, right.
Let's call
Yeah.
Hoffman. Yeah, exactly. Very original. Very original. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I do prefer them over these newer names that are coming out. So I am partial to a little.
Do you have any particular reasoning for that?
I don't know. I've been asked this, I'm not gonna lie, a few times, and I can never come up with one straight answer. I don't know why it bothers me so much to have a comical name. You would think I would love it. Like I call myself the Halloween queen because I will dress up the entire month of Halloween in different characters and all sorts of stuff. So I'm a very silly individual, but I don't know why it bothers me so much to have an animal name something so silly. Like I don't know. Sorry.
It's bothered me for years.
Oh, if it was actually in Latin, because like some of the dinosaurs are named like that. They've got some really silly name if you actually translate it
They
out.
do. They absolutely do. And you are absolutely right. There's just something that just seems prestigious about it being in Latin, but really it just means like polka dotted weird shaped animal. Like,
Yeah.
like
Scabber
so
and
I get it.
Scabber and Lavis just mean rough and smooth. It's just
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's
Exactly. It's just a description.
Yeah.
It's just
And there's so many to fall under
funny.
that.
But yeah,
That same thing bothers me, but it's bothered me with
Exactly.
reptiles, like all the new morphs they have of like crested geckos, leopard geckos, and whoever gets that morph gets to name it something totally ridiculous, like a pajama face or something. I don't know. I just made that up, but don't use that trademark. Copyright LLC. Pajama face leopard gecko is right here. So that's on you.
Yeah, I think that there's, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's just too cutesy or too out there, but I think if it makes it more accessible to people than, a dead language that none of us can pronounce.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And now I will say though that there has definitely been positives. You bring up an absolutely great point, is that having adorable cutesy names make other individuals look at them like they're not so little creepy crawlies you just find under a rock. They are cute. They are like, you've seen those Cubaris faces. Like they are absolutely adorable. Like I love seeing the little mandibles on my Hoffman Thegi. Like I think it's the cutest little face. And so why not associate a name that people then can be like, oh, this is just called a rubber ducky? Like I am totally for that aspect. Like my sister's girlfriend actually thought it was adorable. And she's like, oh my gosh, there's an isopod, did you know, called rubber ducky? And I was like, yes, sweetheart, I own them.
She's excited and she can pronounce the name and she wants to show it off.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly what I'm getting at, is that she was excited that she could that she was able to relate with me in something that she never thought she would be able to relate with me on. It's like, how could you think these roly-polies are cute? And then all suddenly she's like, oh, okay, I get it. Rubber ducky, that's adorable.
Yeah.
So yes, you bring up an absolutely great point there. Like it definitely brings in a different audience, which is great. Like my older sister asked me today, what type of people keep isopods? And I'm like, all sorts of people.
It is. It truly is.
People you wouldn't would expect.
Yeah.
We're a very, very diverse group. And so that I love that. Like I love that.
It's great. Yeah. All right. So I think we're going to let the research angle slide for a little bit. Kind of last point. I know we've talked some pretty high science. We're talking peer review. We're talking, you probably need a certain reading level to get into it. But you can make it accessible. Like join the groups and be like, I read this really awesome abstract and I have no idea what these Latin words mean. And if it's a species, we'll put up pictures. Like we're all about bringing the science to the masses too. We don't have to take you all the way up the Eiffel Tower. We can bring the paperwork down.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what's great, is that we can take this information and we can cite it in a way to where it's respectable to the individual who's actually, developed this research, but then put it in exactly words and context that others will know. and be able to comprehend, I completely get it. Sometimes it's like reading freaking like a thesaurus, and and I literally say thesaurus because it's like all these different words, and it's like it all means the same thing, and you're just like, what am I reading? So I absolutely get it. Yes. Like I said, I have this odd passion for research, and so it's something I'm kind of used to the verbiage, but I'm so glad that I am a part of these groups because it does help others see, and get information that they may not be able to really pull from some of these things, because some of them are very abstract, or some are very so dry that you read 3 words and you're like, I've read the same 3 words for the last 3 hours. So
that's the scientific writing style sometimes. It all depends on who the lead author is. Yeah. Okay. So what do you think is the most rewarding part of all things Isopod?
Oh my goodness. This is like, as cheesy as it sounds, it's showing somebody else an Isopod.
Show us. You've got all
That's
of
true.
wonderful.
Like, I think for me, like showing somebody, I'm so sorry, you guys. So I think one of the most exciting things absolutely is showing somebody else an Isopod and then seeing like their reaction to it, whether it be like oh, what is that, or even in amazement. It's, I don't know, just that reaction is really cool, because regardless if they're disgusted or if they're appalled or if they're intrigued, they're going to ask you questions. And so then you can kind of, introduce them and things like that. And it's always fun to spread that joy, if you will, of isopods and how cool they are and how they can be beneficial and they're just fun. And it's like, well, why keep them if they're not eating poop? And it's like, well, because they're cool, Why do you have a dog? Why do you have a plant that you keep watering? What does that give to you? You like seeing it. It obviously gives you some type of gratification. And of course, who doesn't like seeing adorable little mankai pop up?
Oh my God, the babies.
But the marsupium is so gross.
Yeah. Well, quick vocabulary lesson for those of you who are not regulars or not into isopods yet. Magka, singular, mankay, plural, are what we call the very first teeny tiniest babies. And then they grow up and become regular isopods or roly-polies or potato bugs, or they've got sow bugs, so many different names. And marsupium is on their belly. They hatch their eggs and grow their babies in a little pouch. So marsupium, like marsupial, because they got a pouch.
Yeah, and sometimes the babies just tear out of that pouch and murder their mother, and then they eat their mother, and it's horrifying to find that the first time.
Circle of life.
Yeah, but that circle's tight. That's one tight ass circle.
It definitely is. I'm so sorry, guys.
Every guest has had technical difficulties so far.
Every time.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
There we go. I got it. Okay, so sorry, everyone.
I like that we have segues we can go to if there's technical difficulties, like vocab lessons and welcome to the hobby. And everybody's talking about their sister. Everybody's got a weird sister. I think I've spoken about, I used to make my sister catch the stuff. Like I would pick up the rock and she would catch the stuff because I wouldn't touch it, but I would move the rock. God forbid there was something still on the rock that crawled on my finger because I would have dropped it on my sister.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, see, I am the weird sister. It's just me and my brother, and he's got to deal with me.
See? Is he the rock picker upper?
We take turns flipping rocks. Neither of us are afraid to catch the bugs.
Now we're going to get into my topic. So speaking of setups, this is how the questions work. No segue whatsoever. No one is speaking about setups whatsoever. Where do you source the materials? Like, I don't know if you guys can all see the setups behind her are very uniform. They're very handy. Nat, if you could just demonstrate like how easy it is to pull one of the drawers clean out of there, that would be great. Like, and that comes completely out. So yeah, that's how easy that is. And then do you do anything special for ventilation on those, or it's open top basically, right?
So because it just slides in and out, and I'll actually kind of give you guys a little bit, make it a little bit easier for you guys to see here. It slides in and out. There's personally, for me, there is enough space on here in
Yeah.
order to have enough ventilation for my species. So I live in the very dry state of Arizona. And so I am constantly battling to maintain humidity in all of my enclosures, from my gecko to my stores to my beautiful tegu that I have. So I did not modify these whatsoever, because if I did, I would have to miss them probably twice a day.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'd have
And
to get the
so
Rain King or whatever for the frog people that they have.
are you kidding me? Yes, I would have to have like a whole drip system in place, and it would, I mean, it would look amazing, but it would just, that's too much setup right now for a temporary home, because we're moving in a couple of months, fingers crossed. So the reason I love this setup, because like I said, I like functionality. Like, this is, or rather, I did not mention it to everyone out here right now in this interview, but as you guys know, I like functionality, and I like things to be aesthetically pleasing. And so I wanted them to be on display enough, but I didn't just want them in shoe boxes. No offense to people who put them in the shoe boxes. Like, that is one of the most amazing Isopod setups you can get. You can install your own like little vents and stuff. Like, they're super functional. For me personally, I just wanted something that I can really see and things like that. And I'm at home more often than most people, so I can maintain having to miss them, you know, every few days, and really checking them, like even in between, to make sure that they don't need a little extra moisture on their moss or anything like that. And these guys, I finally, as you guys know, revealed my secret as to where I have all of these from. I did not reveal that until just like last month, I think. And then they were on back order for a few weeks because somebody ordered over 70.
Wow. Wow. Mine have babies now, so I'm super excited. So,
oh, that's so awesome.
yeah, I think I've got like 2 litter. I don't know what you'd call them. What do they call them? Batches? Litters?
Broods.
Oh, broods.
There we go.
Broods.
There we go.
They're called broods. Yeah. And then as far as materials go, Facebook has been phenomenal with networking. I actually bartered for all of my cork. I bartered for pretty much all of my moss, all of my Cuddle Bone, my limestone. I haven't paid a single dollar on items for my isopods, other than the structures that they live in and the substrate that they have. Leaf litter, cork, rotting wood, other bark, different hardwood. I have 5 or 6 different types of leaves. It's all bartering through Facebook and just making really awesome connections with people.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the community too, is that it's that easy.
Heck yeah.
Like, the community totally is there to back each other up, and we trade for things that we need. So
exactly.
Like, they traded you for pods that they needed, you know, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple pretty good trades with my stuffed isopods.
Nice. I love those.
They're amazing. We ought to work out a trade. I'll make you one, and we'll figure out what you've got that I want to need.
Oh my gosh, yes. When my Magnificus breed.
That's an idea.
I just got undercut.
No, you're getting them too.
Oh.
Goodness. You can have from the same brood.
I'll just trade you cash. So it's just easier. I don't have a whole lot. Unless you're into miniatures. I can do miniatures.
Nice.
So I'm referring to your old setup. I was banking on the old setup being the setup.
I'm so
but I know
sorry.
you had a huge fungus issue and you had to tear it down and whatever. But this question was banked on that. So in the old setup that you guys don't know about, it was one of those big racks.
Pictures.
You can see over my shoulder, the big metal rack. It was basically the silver ones, the chrome ones, there we go. It was just loaded with those bins. Now it looks like it's a herbarium, which is awesome.
Yes. Now it's a greenhouse.
A greenhouse. There's another word for it. Herbarium. So it was that rack just chock full of these bins. And
I had 65 species spread out through there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when you had that set up, I didn't realize that it had been torn down because of that. You had that tragic fungus outbreak that just took out a bunch of species. We won't talk about it much, but that's what happened. That's all I want to talk about it, honestly. But did you have them organized by like humidity needs or temperature needs or species, or was there like an organization that you had to it? or was it just kind of? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off mid-question. It kind of cut off for a moment. I thought you paused. So I played around with the setup quite a bit. Like I said, I like things to be aesthetically pleasing. As you see, I have labels with pictures of them, what their names are, what the scientific name of them are, where they're from, and things like that. And so at first, I did it alphabetically because I figured that'd be the easiest way to try to find them. And then I noticed that certain species weren't really thriving. Though I checked on them every day and things like that, I felt like they could have been doing better. So then I decided to group them up by species. Maybe, different needs were a little bit different, And then I really started getting into it, and I started setting up temperature and hygrometers all along those shelves, and started seeing exactly what temperature are each level, because obviously we know heat rises. Me also being in Arizona, it does get very hot. Like I'm in the room right now, and it's a solid about probably 78, 79 degrees in this room constantly. And so whereas outside the store, like we seal the vents and everything, like this room is kind of like temperature controlled as best we can have it, because the lizards are in here and things like that. They like it a little warmer. So then I started to organize it by their temperature needs. I put my more arid species that can take a little bit more heat, a little bit higher on top, the ones that like a little bit more ventilation. Started putting my cubaris a little bit lower, especially knowing that they burrow anyway. They're not really going to see the light too much. And also in that setup you guys saw, I had LED light strips going all around and down and across of the enclosure as well, which it's going to come back once I move. We're serious, and we're going to set everything back up again. And Tanya's going to help me out and kind of get my species back up again. And so the amazing setup will come back, I promise. And we'll do another interview, and I'll show it and do a whole tour.
If you need some milk bags, your milk bags that you sent me have taken off. So
perfect.
Just
I'm
let
so
me know.
excited.
After my tragic loss of my milk bags.
Oh, I know. I'm so glad I was able to help that. But yeah, so the setup is going to come back. And I did, like I said, then I started to do it by species needs after that. And it took a little bit for me to personally get used to. I was used to it being, alphabetical, and then species was easier to find them that way. This way it was a little more dicey, wasn't quite as alphabetical and all that stuff, but you get used to it. You pretty much bunch certain Persilio species in one area. You bunch certain Cubaris species in one area. So you do kind of keep them together by species, but in a more, a little bit more advanced way, I guess. I did it by each level, and, I saw that it was a lot cooler down at the bottom and stuff like that. So that definitely, I noticed that my species did thrive much, much more once those needs were just right. Like, and I tell people this with pets. I said, why do you want your pet to survive when it can thrive? And so that's what I ended up helping them out and doing by 100%. Doing that setup. Now, am I saying everybody should do that setup? No, it just worked for me because I am such a dry area, this room where I have them in. Any advice or anything that I ever tell anybody, I'm going to tell them, look, take this with a grain of salt, because I'm in a completely different environment. Like, somebody purchased these and they're adding vents to them. I would never add a vent to one of mine, because if I did, I wouldn't have a life. I really wouldn't. I'd be in this room every day, all day.
I can't wait till his setup is done. I think if we're talking about the same guy, it's like 70, right? He bought like 70 setups.
Yes. He was the reason it went on back order for a little bit.
And where are they from? Where are they from?
They're from the Container Store. They're closet organizer drawers. And there's a series of sizes. Like, these are for small shoes, are the ones that are up at top. These are technically for sweaters. These thinner ones, actually, you can see them a little bit. There we go. These thinner guys over here are made specifically for t-shirts. Okay. And then I have some medium size that are about half this length. Actually, I'll go ahead and just grab one for you so you guys can see it, because why not, right?
Now I want to know what's in that tiny little box.
Oh my gosh, did you see that? Sorry.
Yeah,
and what is that? Then you've got these medium-sized ones, okay, which are There we go. You can kind of see the size comparison.
Okay.
And these are 7 inches by 5.5 by 14.
Okay. I really like the length of them. Like they don't look that big to look at the face. But then you see how deep they are, how far they go back.
I believe 14 or 14.5 inches deep.
That's
So
awesome.
you've got a good size area to be able to create that nice gradient of moisture to dry. And you can control however dry or however moist you need it. Like I noticed for my rubber duckies, the one thing I did have to do for these was I did take some cling wrap and I put it over in the inside and then shoved the drawer in. And that's how I was able to maintain much more humidity for them because I really wanted to leave those guys alone. They don't like to be messed with too much.
Yeah. I see your sisters are on here chiming in, so that's good.
Yeah.
So now you said earlier that you really like to show people isopods. So will you show us some isopods? Like walk us through a drawer or two. Let us see some of these
Hoffman
wonderful things you've got.
Hoffman!
Oh, of course. So here we go. We might as well grab the Hoffmans. Now I'm grabbing the blacks because I spoil my OG Hoffmans. They're in a what is that? I think a 30-gallon glass tank. They're spoiled.
You're saying though, once you put them in there and give them a bigger footprint, like they kind of took off, right? The females had more territory.
Oh, are you kidding me? That's what I tell people. Space, 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 space. They love space. Like my Hoffmans, they have taken off since I have given them more room. Like my blacks, I think I'm going to upgrade them here soon because they finally really start producing for me. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and, of course, they're all hiding today. Hello, there you are. Come here, beautiful girl. And so as soon as I put them in their own little environment, why are you committing kamikaze? Come here, baby girl. There we go.
Of course, they're always super chill when you pick them up until you're trying to show them to somebody.
Until you're trying to show them off, and of course she's gonna decide to be real crazy. I'm just having her calm down for a second. You're good, sweetie. I know it's a little
Usually
bright,
for the audience, once you pick these guys up, they just sit there on your hand and eventually just start to nibble.
So now she's just exploring. She's figured out that I'm not gonna eat her. That she's in no danger, and so now she'll just hang out. And that's the best part when they do start to nibble, like you said, because they are what I call just biodegraders. I'm not even going to lie. That's not even a proper term, but it just makes so much sense for what they do for the environment and all the nitrogen that they supply and like how their frass is so amazing. There we go. See, now she just started.
We were talking, I think, in chat about opening a spa where you just put your feet in a shoebox full of isopods and just have a margarita while they eat all the cuticles or whatever.
You would have to take care of the dead skin.
How cool would that be for everyone here? Oh, everyone in the audience.
Oh my gosh.
Would you guys be down to put your feet in a shoebox of isopods? Just chime in.
Shoebox of
pedicure. If we can make it clean, would you do it?
Frass is so biodegradable, I feel like.
It is. Like I actually, because I do a lot of the bioactive enclosures and the different terrariums, when I do substrate changes, I will scoop that layer of the frass and actually put it into my plants and mix it into that first top layer of soil for them. And they love it. They absolutely love it. Oh, and you can't go without an isopod chat without talking about dairy cows. I mean, these are just like, you can't. Like, they're absolutely adorable.
They put the hobby on the map. I feel like they are. Yeah. Dairy cows are fully responsible for putting this hobby on the map. They're my first species. Almost everybody I know was their first species. They're just so bold and big, and they're
just so fun. They come in different colors. They relax immediately because they know you're not a threat. And they come in so many colors. You can get one like this one that only has about 2 little polka dots on them. Oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart, you're pregnant. I'll put you back.
At least they didn't explode babies on you.
Oh, I get so sad. One time one gave birth on me and I was like, I did not mean to stress you out, sweetheart. I'm so sorry.
Sometimes if you pick them up and they're pregnant, they will burst babies.
They will expel their babies in order for a survival.
Yeah.
Oh, look, see, so the Cuddle Bone I put in there just a couple of weeks ago. So here's the back.
It's like hollow. Yeah.
It's completely hollowed out now.
I couldn't figure out what was in my tank because it was just that see-through layer.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was totally see-through, and I'm like, what in the hell is this? And it took me a minute
to figure out. You're like, what is? Oh yeah. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, they're like, oh, I heard of Cuddle Bone. I'm like, yes, absolutely. If you can get your hands on it, go ahead and get it. You might as well throw in a couple pieces in there. They're gonna enjoy it. So
do you know this gal? Do you know this gal, Nat? She said she would absolutely put her feet in the Isopod bin.
That's my younger sister. My younger one, yeah. Her girlfriend is the adorable one that said about the rubber duckies. I'm so sorry. I keep saying girlfriend. It's her fiance. They're getting married this year. So I'm so sorry, Rachel. I love you guys.
We are allies at Isobuddies.
Yep. So, Nat, what's been your biggest challenge with this setup or with Isopods?
Okay, so I'll go. I said queso. I'll go with the first one is control. I think was probably the biggest challenge. Talking to Tanya and how amazing she was and stuff like that. I had some enclosures. I already told you it was like $500 worth of Isopods. Well, it was also because I had traded that up to that value as well in different enclosures and things like that. So it was a value of almost $500. And now, did I spend that money right there? No, but it was still a trade value of that much. And I had a very disposable income when I was bartending and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, I can just get any Isopod I want. That's adorable. Oh, I'll just get this one. So I think honestly, control is probably one of the biggest ones that, like I said, that Isopod itch really hit hard. So I could have gotten free Isopods, but I'm still spending money on shipping. It's like you realize, even though I'm bartering, you're still kind of spending in some point, buying the enclosures or things like that. And so the second one is realizing that you have limitations. I know that kind of goes with control, if you will, but and realizing it's okay to fail. Like that's the biggest thing. Like colonies are going to crash. You can do everything right or think you're doing everything right and something goes wrong. I had 65 species. You guys heard that I was dealing with a battle of this fungal battle, and with my enclosures, I had this huge sprout of this really weird fungus come up. And it was devastating, to see all this hard work and all this effort. I'd open a drawer and just thousands were gone. And so realizing you're going to lose something, you have control, but at the same time, understand that you can't control everything. You can control how much you take in, but these guys are going to do what they're going to want to do. If they're not happy, they'll tell you in a very dramatic way.
Definitely. That is why I now preserve Isopods. Like I went a couple days too long because I also live in a mountain desert state. I went a couple days too long and lost 2/3 of my dairy cows. And I open up the big container I just put them in, and there's no movement. I'm like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. I gave my younger
crying about it. I spent my evening collecting dead Isopods to put in alcoholic reserve.
I haven't hit that level yet, but soon.
And the thing is, it's okay if it happens is essentially what we're getting at, like my younger sister and her partner, I gave them some Montenegros. I gave them some Montenegros. Okay. So beautiful species. You guys know they're gorgeous. Really fun to watch.
Do you have one handy, or could you show us the tags so we can see what they look like?
Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. Yeah, I actually have. So this is going to sound, I'm going to try not to make it sound morbid, but this is my death pile.
Yeah.
So this are all the species that I lost. But yes, let me pull up these beautiful
the Montenegros I bought from you are still doing well. They still haven't bred.
Good.
But they're doing well. Still no babies.
Oh yeah, no, they are. Here they are. Perfect. So
That's fair.
Dun,
Really,
They
dun.
thank
are
you.
beautiful.
So they're gorgeous, and she was so devastated. Both of them were when they found a dead one, and then they found another dead one, and then they found out that all of them were gone. I only had sent 5 or 6 because I didn't want them to get overwhelmed too quickly.
Sure.
And so they were devastated. And I said, "Hey, it's okay." I'm like, I have so many species that randomly just go belly up, like you're gonna lose some, and once you guys move, I'll give you guys some more. It's okay, they keep breeding. And she's super ecstatic about it, so I'm nerding out because I'm like, which one am I gonna send her now? I want to give her something hardy but something pretty. And so the research continues. I'm gonna start going through them and seeing which one I'm gonna send her.
My kid sister, who used to catch all the bugs for me, she runs a daycare, and I tried to talk her into taking a colony or two, for the daycare kids to check out and whatever. And she was like, "Oh God, no, I'd be so grossed out." Meanwhile, like, she hatches Uthaka or egg sac of mantises every year for the kids, and has other stuff. She raises the caterpillars for the kids and the butterflies or moths or whatever they are. Those little kits you buy. So while you're getting that out, do you have any pro tips for the people I'm still pretty new, like 6 months in.
Calm down, pretty girl. So, pro tips. Remember I mentioned Cuddle Bone.
Yeah.
Obviously that sounds like a rookie tip, but I've ground it into their substrate. I leave chunks for them. I mix it into their food. Like, I put it everywhere.
So the calcium's there constantly.
Every opportunity. So they always have calcium. The only reason that I'm personally using Cuddle Bone is because I have a plethora of it. Really a lot of different calcium sources will suffice. A lot of people I've heard of doing, after they hard boil their eggs, they'll grind the bones, or they'll grind the bone. They'll grind the shell,
Oh, I don't boil my
heard
eggs. I just crush up my eggshells.
Yeah, my wife does whatever eggs, and then I crush the
exactly.
eggshells. Yeah.
Exactly. You can just crush them, and it's just fine. I know a lot of people who eat hard boiled eggs, so it just ends up being boiled.
Yeah.
But absolutely. So I've noticed calcium and feeding is super important. I know that sounds silly, but feeding them a variety of different things, like, I've noticed really get them going. Like, I used to kind of think it was as simple as just like throwing leaves in and stuff like that, but they eat a plethora of different items. Like, I'll sometimes throw little bits of like chicken bone sometimes, and with like chicken attached to it. Like, minuscule, obviously, because you don't want that smelling and being all weird unless you have a large colony. Like, my dairy cows, they've eaten everything from steak to pork to shrimp. They've eaten baby quail, mice. They've eaten multiple things. Multiple types of protein. The skin of carrots. Now I don't know if there's a difference between like organic and non-organic. I don't know if anybody has ever tried non-organic. We just eat organic at my house. So I'm always constantly putting, the peels, I just throw them right in there.
I'm poor. I can't afford organic. They get whatever veggie scraps I'm eating.
So perfect. Okay, so then there you go. Like I said, I don't know if there's a difference or not, because that's just what we get.
They're supposed to not use pesticides, so you just have to you don't have to worry about washing it off as much. So
there you go. Okay.
I still would, but whatever.
Exactly. And so, like, feeding a variety of things is amazing. Like, and I've noticed, like, my Hoffmans, they're hungry little gusses. Like, they will eat and eat and eat. Like, I'm constantly keeping their food. Like, I actually have a food bowl for them that I'm constantly just leaving food in there. Like, I'm actually staring at it right now, and I'm like, son of a biscuit. Like, I just put food in there early this morning, and they've already killed it. So that's why I know my colony's gotten bigger. I need to start putting more food in.
I'm going to have to get back to you because I don't eat anything. I'm going to need some advice on that.
Yeah. So that's what I have to do with my wild caught colony. They've actually cleaned out all of the spongy part of a Cuddle Bone. So, like, that's their food dish now. And if I fill it up, they will swarm it till it's gone.
Absolutely.
That's awesome idea for food dish.
Yeah. Big pro tip I can give is keep an eye on food intake. So obviously food is important, but food intake, keep an eye on what they're eating more of. You know, if you put food in and you notice, oh wow, like I said, with the food I put in, I'm like, okay, they just ate that and I just put in earlier today. They really liked it, and maybe possibly my colony's really big and I may have to put more than I thought. And so ensuring that you're feeding enough food for your colonies in order for them to know that, okay, I can reproduce, like I'm good. I have enough sustenance in order to maintain this. Like you'll notice that with dairy cows, like when I feed them, their numbers, whoosh, they just explode. Yeah. They're like, oh, heck yeah, we have nutrients. Let's make more babies, you know?
Till we wipe out the resources of this area.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Mine, even if they snub it, even if they're like, that piece of shrimp needs to get really nasty before we'll touch it, or they've got a piece of potato that's sprouted, they're guarding it. I cannot take out this potato sprout, even though I need to worry about it off-gassing and killing them, because they won't let me. They're like, it's my plant now.
Yeah, and it may help with that hoarding situation. Maybe you may have to put more in there or something, like who knows?
So what have you got in your hand there?
So I've got what we were talking about. I figured I'd pull one out because I've been talking about them enough.
Who's that?
So this is a female Magnificus.
Oh, they're so cool.
Let me see if I can get it. So they look, as some of these people are probably like, oh, that looks just like the black one you just pulled out. They are very, very similar. They are from the same region. They eat the same foods. Difference is actually this one. Speaking of eating different foods, hello Nibbly. These guys will only breed seasonally. They only breed, from my understanding, once a year. I have owned them for about 9 months now as adults and some juveniles, and I have yet to see babies. And from my understanding, they produce in the springtime. So I'm hoping here by April, and hopefully by the anniversary of my birth, I will see babies.
That would be the best birthday present, Magnificus babies.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I would be so excited. Good girl.
Birthday's in September, just saying. Oh,
right.
They won't have grown out enough sun by then, right, Josh? So last question from us. So if you are watching and you do have questions, go ahead and add them to the live stream, and we'll try and get to them before Nat tells us that we're completely out of time. So last question from us is about like citizen science projects. Do you have anything that's citizen science or a way that we can get involved in the Isopod research? For those of you who aren't familiar, citizen science is when regular people like you and me that are not professional scientists go out and collect data or take information down and send it to, you know, a university researcher or somebody at the state, so that our work and our numbers can go into their peer-reviewed papers.
Exactly. I don't personally know of any that are going on at the moment now, because unfortunately not a lot of people know that they could do that. So I'm super glad that you brought that up, because there are a lot of people out there that are into isopods, and they're wondering like, oh, well, like, for example, somebody recently posted that they have an Oreo crumble that's orange and white, as opposed to more of a blackish blue and white. Or sorry, I should say grayish black and white.
So a creamsicle is what you're saying?
Yes, a creamsicle.
Nailed
exactly.
It. Trademark, copyright, LLC.
And so they're stating they've separated them. They have about 20 of them now. And what would be amazing to see is like what may have caused that. Why did they all of a sudden pop up and become more pied-like and become more of like an Oreo crumble rather than that solid orange? And so it would be amazing that people to reach out and document what they're doing. Like, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I document all my deaths, all my mankai, how many do I at least see, you know, what foods I've been giving them, what's been working, what do they like, what do they don't like. And through having that information, you can gain a lot of, oh my gosh, you can gain so much in just submitting that to somebody for them to actually like review it and see it and whatnot. Now I do, like I said, know of people who are working on certain like breeding projects and things like that. I myself, I'm actually looking into, somebody I know, a lot of their isopod species are getting really weird markings. They're turning white, certain species. And so I'm going to go over there and really kind of not set up shop, but continuously go over, check on them, document them, and see what is it? What are you feeding them? What is it? What temperature is it? Like, is there something that I can recreate in order to get this result as well? You know, like all these breeding projects, you know, that are going on. I should be able to recreate what you did and get the same result. And then by doing that, sorry?
That is also my exotics. We got to see them in chat one night. She was showing off all kinds of crazy stuff.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was able to say that it was them or not. But yes, a lot of their species are turning white, and it's so cool. And I want to figure out why. I want to know what it is that's causing that. You know, is it environmental? Is it genetic? You know, so it would be really fun to see. But no, as a ring around version of it, I don't know any current ones that are being done. It would be really cool if anybody is doing something to reach out and maybe to collab with other people who have a bunch of different species and stuff like that. I'm willing to donate time or species in order to try to get information out there for sure. So if anybody out there is doing something like that, get in contact with one of us.
That's the best. So if you're out there and you're looking for, you know, your university or grad school or PhD thesis process, and you want to do inverts, and you're looking for some people who keep them, get in touch. We'll figure it out.
We will help you. We will help you.
and if you aren't in the high sciences, and you still want to do some kind of citizen science, take your local kids, friends' kids, whoever out bug hunting. And we mentioned it last time. There's an app you can get for your phone called iNaturalist. And you can put up pictures and it will say, and you can identify species or have species identified for you. And it keeps track of what lives in which areas. So
I love that app.
That's really cool. I didn't know that was an app. I didn't know that.
And it's a free app.
I'm downloading it tonight.
Yeah, I used to do some conservation education work. So I'm aware of a few other projects with a few other, like a bird project, or I know some other apps that would be useful for other topics. But iNaturalist is pretty good for just about anything you find outside. Plants, animals, bugs, you name it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do we have any questions from the audience? From the listeners, the watchers, the viewers, the people? There's actually
the people out there.
A lot of people in right now, I think.
Yeah. They don't seem to have a whole lot of questions.
No, they had comments.
So. They just comments.
Good comments, though. We love our watchers. We've got the best audience.
The Valentine bunch had a lot to say, but that was it. That's hilarious. Like, I didn't make the connection at all until they were like, she's our sister. I was like,
Okay, Wally says he had one, and the comment I'm seeing says, question, you can't wait to see this isopod. Mine would be an orange hop. So, Wally, I'm going to do the grammar police thing and be like, what was your question? Type it back in, because I can't.
I can't wait to see this isopod. I got what he's saying. So he's asking, what is your, I can't wait to see this isopod.
Wow.
Like if you were to put a special breed, like a piebald orange.
So
Dionysus, whatever, like a dreamsicle.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm tracking. I'm like if I were to what species and like color combo essentially what I like to see.
Yeah, like his is an orange Hoffman, which you just showed us a Magnificus, so I don't know what his problem is, but
so
throw shade at Wally.
No, it kind of is like an orange Hoffman. I do love. I love them though. They're so funny, and they're little spiky Europods.
Wide too.
They are, yeah. They're little tanks. I love it, and it's funny because they're so skittish in comparison to Hoffmans, like the Magnificus are.
Really?
It's interesting to see like the difference in personality. They're just as big, if not sometimes can be bigger, depending on health and things like that, genetics. But the Magnificents are little scaredy cats. They are, they will instantly run at the light. They will, as soon as they sense carbon dioxide, like your breath, they immediately hide. As opposed to the Hoffmans. Like Hoffmans will, obviously they'll scatter a smidgen, but not nearly as much as the Magnificus. The Magnificus, like I said, I gotta chase them. Whereas the Hoffmans, I flip that cork bark, they see the light for a few seconds, and they're just like, oh, okay, whatever. And I can just pluck one right out. Or just have one walk along my finger. But yeah, the Magnificus, yeah, they're little wusses. I'm sorry. But they're beautiful. They're magnificent. They're magnificent, you know, just like their name suggests. Absolutely. But yeah, they're little wusses. No, but to Wally's question, of course, Hoffman Sagi, I'm gonna have to say, just like you said, an orange one. I would love to see like a white or like an off-white almost Hoffman. Like there is a Hoffman, now what's really cool is I actually reveal time. Some of my chocolates are super, super light. And so I am isolating as light as I possibly can to see what happens. But that is something I would love to see, like the Expansis. Like you've seen those white ones that I think Andy or Andrea or something has posted before, and they're just glorious. They look so pretty. So yeah, I think like a white Hoffman. Oh my goodness.
That's so cool.
Beautiful. All right, so we've got another question from the audience. Can isopods be housed with any other animal?
I said
depending on
yes.
the animal. I was like, yeah, depending on the animal.
Yes.
Like, yeah, definitely depending on the animal for sure. They can be housed with reptiles. They can be housed. Oh my gosh, I saw this adorable. I'll try to find it. Somebody did a hamster bioactive, and they put isopods in there, and it was really cool. They're like, sometimes the hamster eats them, but it's good. You know, it's good calcium for them. Now, you guys may be able to answer a little bit more because of the different inverts. Are there any isopods that should or shouldn't be housed with snails?
I don't know much about snails, and I don't know.
I don't know if you guys know about snails or not.
Yeah, I don't know if we touched on it with Rachel, but I think I learned it from her, that in general, you don't want to house isopods with millipedes, especially if you want the millipedes to breed, because the isopods will eat on the eggs.
Eat the babies. Yeah, they'll eat the eggs that are just hanging out. Yes, that I was aware of. I just wasn't sure about snails or not.
I have micro snails and slugs that have hitchhiked into a few of my enclosures, and the isopods are fine, and the gastropods are fine, so I'm not having an issue. And I'm not having... The slugs and snails aren't overrunning.
Oh, okay.
The snails probably will overrun in that enclosure because they came in with the isopods, like they were already together. And I think I ended up with more snails than isopods. So until those isopods establish and decide to breed for me, I may end up with too many snails. But as long as the food disappears, I do spy the living isopod on occasion. But my other one, I had some slugs hitchhike in from some moss I added. Like the moss is long dead and eaten, and the slugs are around, but the isopods are breeding. Like I can tell their numbers are going up. So
cool. So you don't see any effect by it so far?
Yeah, if I see a negative effect, I'll separate them out. But at this point, I don't feel like killing slugs and snails, and everybody seems to be getting along. So until I see a problem, I don't see any reason to stop the experiment.
Oh, it's I completely get it. People ask me why I tore down my bioactive because they said millipedes are beneficial, and I said, well, I just don't like them. I didn't like the greenhouse millipedes so much that I actually put their bodies inside of a little glass display to remind their little buddies that I'll get them eventually.
Oh, you should wear that around your neck.
I'm going to.
Now, I would say to answer Viviana's question a little differently, I would just say yes to that question because you can house isopods as far as I have seen with any other animal. Now, some will prey on the isopods, but if you let them establish first, if you let the isopods establish first and then introduce the reptile or the amphibian or whatever you're putting it in with, they have a better chance of having their own established colony. Worst case scenario, you top them off. Somebody I know did really poorly executed bioactive hedgehog setup, which hedgehogs feed on isopods in the wild. That's kind of their thing. But he was using everything for bioactive. So like roaches, beetles, millipedes, isopods. The setup was kind of huge. He eventually let it go because it just wasn't working out. But that worked out. When he tore it down, he had hundreds of isopods in the enclosure. So
Nice.
I would almost take it with anything.
Yeah. One last note on other animals and isopods is isopods are native to most biomes throughout the world. So, but not every isopod can exist in every biome. So whatever the needs are for your animal should match the needs of the particular isopod that you choose to put in there with it.
As closely as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just like I mentioned, like when me reevaluating my setup, it's some needed more heat, some needed a little bit to be a little cooled off as opposed to being in, 78, 79 degree weather. And so, yes, absolutely. Like the ones I have in my crested gecko enclosure aren't going to be the same ones typically that I put into my stores monitor, because stores monitors need a lot more heat and a lot less humidity. So not many places to go to escape that heat in there.
What kind of monitor?
It's called a stores monitor. It's they look like an Aki, very similar, but they only get to about 10 to 12 inches. A little bit stockier. Their legs are shorter. They're kind of stubby. Like they're adorable. And I found out I'm only one of 3 people in the U.S. that owns them.
We're gonna have to see those. At some point.
So if they're awesome and they're amazing, you got to breed them.
Oh, she's pulling them out.
I am. So here's at least. I know. He's sleeping. So you can see how close they look like an Aki.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You really do.
But they're also from Australia, so very, very similar setting. Yes, I actually have already spoken to my partner, and I will be breeding him. Now here, the quest is trying to find a female, and it's recommended to get 2. So I've already spent 2 years trying to find 1 female, and I still can't do it. So I'm now reaching out more so than I was before, and connecting with other reptile owners to see, if I can at least try to set up something with them. But anyway, I won't get too much into that. But yes, I will be breeding them because they're awesome and they're barely here. And he's adorable. Like, they're so cute.
And being Australian, it's not like we can bring over any new ones. So you got to do your part for the captive bred community.
Yes, exactly. So just like you mentioned, I don't know if people know this, it is illegal to take anything out of Australia. They don't let you export anything out of there. So everything does have to be captive bred. Actually, the people who owned him didn't know he even was a stores monitor. They thought he was an Aki. The poor guy he's got a past. Yeah. I don't even know how old he is, but he's a sweetheart though. So they're an awesome breed. But yes, like you mentioned, going back to it, I'm not gonna have the same isopods in there, He does like to eat them though, so they like to hide.
Well, he'll get some overflow. That's all.
He does. He catches the overflow. He does. It's pretty adorable.
This week,
Oh yeah, happens. No, he knows when it's dairy cow day, because that means I ran out of roaches.
My toad is a huge fan. He's like, oh, they're white and easy to see. Like, this is great.
Oh yeah, no, he loves them. He knows exactly what they are. He's like, oh, it's shrimp day. Like, he gets so excited. They really are. Apparently, they taste like shrimp. So
they're close relatives.
That's what I've heard.
They are.
Someday for ratings. Baby Icepod's so cute. All right. I don't know where she's getting that from, but all right. Well, that's it for our interview, and it's been great having you. Thank you so much.
I hate to feel like we're cutting it off short, but oh my God, we're 15 minutes over time. So if you want to keep the conversation going, you have to join us in the chat in Isobuddies Facebook, and then you can join in.
Isobuddies Facebook after hours.
After hours. Tuesday check-in chat. Yeah, basically it's the check-in after the chat. Yeah. So all right, we're gonna do our closeout stuff. So we're gonna send you out of here. So thanks
Sorry,
again,
Dad.
Natalie.
Thank you
It was
so
awesome. I
much.
hope you
Thanks
can make
again,
chat.
you guys.
So if you can make
Absolutely.
chat. I'm sure people have more questions. All right.
Absolutely. I'll be jumping on. Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Yep. All right. That was
All
awesome.
right. We love that. We really do.
I really have to learn how to wrap stuff up because I ask too many follow-up questions. It's just crazy. I can't not. I'm so fascinated by every guest.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody else had as good a time as we did.
Well, and speaking of guests, we're probably going to go over again next week because we will have the one and only Russ from Aquarimax Pets on with us. And just to note that we will be doing that show on Monday instead. So keep an eye on the social media feeds next
It will be Monday.
Russ with Aquarimax.
I'll almost be posting about it every day just to make sure that everybody knows. So obviously you can watch it on Tuesday if you have to, but it will be Monday because Russ has other obligations. So his show is actually on Tuesday. So
earlier than us, so you can watch his and then come watch us.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like I don't want to really take him away from his projects to come on to ours. So, but yeah, Russ, I'm a little overwhelmed to have Russ come on our show, and he's such a nice guy, such a great guy to talk to.
It'll be an honor. It really will. In the meantime, head on over to Isobuddies Facebook and join our live chat. You don't have to turn your video on, but it is a voice and video chat, so you will be able to, talk with Josh and Nat and some of the other fans. And
whoever else is there, yeah.
I
can almost guarantee Jody. Wally will probably be
on your way out to go over there, hit like, hit subscribe, maybe drop us a comment. I check them and I reply, so
Oh, I had a thing this week. All right, so whoever I see this week, I can't believe I forgot to do this. I came up with this afternoon. I have a little overflow on a couple of my species, so I won't really get into it too much what I have. But if you click subscribe, and share the channel to your page or an adjacent page, for the cost of shipping, I will ship you out at least one 12-pod colony of isopods that aren't just garden variety isopods. So, and
there you go.
That'll go out Monday if we make that happen. I can't afford to do that for all the shipping. That's all you have to do. I'm not going to pick one. I'm not going to pick two people. Everyone who does that will get some of the things I have, orange koi, scaber, dairy cows. I can send milk bags. There's a bunch of stuff I could send out. So I'll keep it a mystery thing. So whoever's interested, do those things. Let me know you did those things.
Like, comment, share, and send us screen caps in the DMs here, Facebook. I run the Instagram, so if you send it to me on Instagram, I'll make sure Josh gets it. We'll be in touch.
All right, so yeah, do that if you want free isopods. So, well, free besides shipping. So, other than that, that's all I've got tonight. Thank you, Claire, as always.
Yeah.
Rock.
Thank you, Josh. It's always a pleasure, and we will see everybody next Monday.
We'll be here Monday. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great night. All right. And